from the American Rough Riders
Oh, in the Spanish
in the
American War.
States. My people's background from the States. My mother was born in Buffalo,
Mhm.
so my uncle enlisted in the Rough Riders, and then he came to Canada. My father came from England, Rochdale. My grandfather, not my father, and my grandmother came over on a sailing boat with 6 kids. I don't know how many more she had, another 6. But anyway, it's an interesting story because she was a very staunch Protestant. And I'm not staunch anything. So anyway, she was a staunch Protestant. And she got up on the streets in Toronto in the olden days on a soapbox and gave the Protestants hell because there was no orphanage for the city of Calgary or city of Toronto for the Protestants. The Catholics had an orphanage. So the orphanage, the Orange Lodge, took on her project and built her an orphanage in Orangeville. And so she started the first Protestant orphanage in the city, and raised kids too.
Wow.
And then in her spare time. Oh, this is amazing.
I'm going to go get you a glass of water, both of you, okay? I'll be right
I'm
back.
fine.
In her spare time, she baked bread. And lo and behold, she got her sons out peddling bread, and she started the first bakery in the city in Toronto. So it's amazing what they can do.
Mhm.
Amazing what your relatives do.
Yes, yeah, exactly, exactly.
So that's kind of a diverse getting off.
No,
the
but
subject.
it's interesting, because,
It's
you know, the
background.
reason I ask is because I always had this theory that so many Canadians were infantrymen in the First World War,
Yes.
that they all told their sons, whatever you do, join the infantry, go join the Air Force.
Well, I was 19 when I joined up,
Mhm.
and is that for me?
Yes.
Oh, you're sweet.
Do you think it's okay if I put it on here?
Oh,
Probably
sure.
not, eh?
What the hell?
Okay, what the heck? I'll say you did it
Yeah,
anyways.
it's interesting. No, my people were not religious people, but they were very God-feeling people.
Mhm. Mhm.
We went to church every Sunday. We went to Sunday school. Oh, I got so fed up going to church. Sunday school twice a day and this sort of thing. No drink. We never had liquor in our house. Never smoked. Never swore. It was a very, and from that atmosphere, to go into the military is a culture shock.
Mhm.
A real
Kidding.
culture shock. We were recruited to live in the exhibition grounds in Toronto. There are 5,000 men, all in one barracks. Well, you never saw such a horrible sight in your life as 25 men, naked men, getting showered. That's the most horrible sight you've ever seen. This was the culture shock. I came from a protected house
Yeah.
where they never said damn if their mouth was full of it,
Mhm.
and into the military where beer flowed like wine and so forth.
Sure.
And it was it was it was a change.
Yeah.
And to fly an airplane, never been in an airplane in my life.
Right. Well, and that's the next thing I'm kind of curious about is why the Air Force?
I don't know. When war was declared in '39, I had a phobia as a teenager. I don't know why. I can't explain it. I would not be conscripted.
Mhm.
I thought that's a disgrace
Mhm.
to me,
Right.
and nobody else cared. And my mother and dad didn't even discuss it. And when I came home and said, thank you, I had enlisted in the service, they just about dropped their teeth. Because they'd never, ever, ever had anything to do with military.
Mhm. Okay. Except your uncle.
Except my uncle, he never talked about it.
No.
I only found out about it later. And the way I found out, my mother said to him, why don't you apply to the American government for a pension? Oh. Eventually he did. Eventually the American government gave him a pension. for being in the Rough Riders. Well, that's the only thing, and they never talked about it. They didn't talk about anything in those days.
No, no, no. Well, combat infantrymen never talked about it.
Oh, no, no. And nobody bothered. See, I was in the military for 25 years after the war.
Mhm.
Nobody bothered about my history. They could care less. This is writing this book. Excuse me.
Sure.
I've got too many things going for me. Hello, 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 hello. Oh, yeah, call back. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's just because again, because so many, especially from the western
Yeah.
provinces, so many young men joined the Air Force or joined the Navy.
Yeah, they like the Navy, yeah.
Mhm.
I think because of wide open spaces.
I think you're right.
But I just joined the Air Force because it seemed to be the thing to do at the time, and don't ask me why, except I wouldn't be conscripted.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the Army was the alternative to being conscripted.
Right.
So I joined up in 19. They didn't call me up till I was 20 because they had no uniforms. And when we did get a uniform, they were all different colors. But I'd never flown a day in my life.
Right. So now how were you selected to actually fly as
We
opposed
went
to
through a
the?
process. We went to what they call ITS, Initial Training School. And this was after you did your guard duty, mountain guard and so forth, general duty. And you went to ITS and they put you through a process of selection. And they give you the link trainer to do. And I said, I want to be a gunner. I want to be a machine gunner. I don't want. They said, they gave me the tests on the link trainer, the coordination test and all that. And they said, no, you're going to be a pilot. I said, I don't want to be a pilot. I want to be a gunner. Nope, you have no choice in the course service.
Mhm.
You have no choice. So it was a series of eliminations. I got shoved into a Tiger Moth type airplane.
But it's so interesting. You didn't want to be a pilot because,
No.
of course, just about everybody was exactly the opposite.
Ups, yeah.
Every gunner wanted to be a pilot.
Every gunner wanted to be a pilot. I didn't want to be a pilot, but my coordination was such that they selected me as a pilot. I had no choice.
Okay.
Of course.
And then how did you end up on the single seaters as opposed to multi-engine?
I was training. I was a flight instructor in McLeod on twin engine on Ansons,
Okay. Mhm.
and I think somewhere down the line I put down a request for fighters. I'm sure I did the goof. Somebody goofed. To send a twin engine trained man onto a single engine seems an awful waste, but the government in their wisdom sent me up to Bagotville to fly the Hurricane.
Mhm.
And then the Hurricane I went to fly the P-40. And the P-40 I went over to fly the Typhoon. So it was a series of steps.
But that's so interesting that you moved. Again, you were on multi-engine aircraft and
Yeah.
got moved to the single.
I was selected one time to go on to Ferry Command.
Oh,
And then
okay.
it was canceled. Oh boy, this is the creme de creme,
Yeah. Yeah.
Flying Liberators, flying Fortress would take them over Dingle.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, somebody got there first.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what was the Anson like to fly?
It was a great airplane, a great trainer, very forgiving, a very understanding airplane. You couldn't hurt yourself if you used common sense.
Mhm.
I trained about 100 students, and I never had one washed out. I had one interesting story. The wing commander, Brown, called me and he said, I was a warrant officer at the time, he said, Sergeant, he said, I want you to take this student, he's a New Zealander, and he's had all kinds of flying time, but he can't get him solo. Well, he said, would you take him? And he said, give him a test, and if necessary, wash him out. I said, oh, that's a dirty job. He said, somebody's got to do it. So I took this kid out to my airplane. I said, okay, let's start it up. He said, I've never started. So I showed him that. I showed him the procedure. Said, taxi. He said, I've never taxied before. So right there, something's wrong here somewhere. So I took him up the end of the runway, and we did the cockpit check. Just perfect. The kid was perfect. And I said to him, okay, let's take off. It's clear, go ahead. I've never taken off. So I showed him how to taxi out onto the runway, and I showed him what to do. And we went down the runway like a jackrabbit. I folded my arms and said, do it. And I made him do it. And he took off. I said, glide up to your 500 feet, take your left 90-degree turn and go up to 1,000, drop down 1,000 feet, drop your wheels, and then land. He said, I've never landed. So I showed him. And this kid, he was homesick. He had a lousy instructor. That was the big thing. I know the instructor, Hooper, he was terrible. He wasn't an instructor. He flew the airplane. He didn't let the kid fly. I used to let the students fly. I know how to fly. I didn't have to do it. So I taught them to fly. So he graduated with second in his class. So one time I was in London. I was just on leave from my fighter squadron, walking through Hyde Park, and here's this airman, New Zealand uniform, blue. I said, Robertson, what are you doing here? He said, well, Sarge, very quiet, homesick. He said, I just got the DFC from the Queen. I said, what? A student that's going to be wiped out? I said, what did you do right? He said, I brought a Halifax back, but 7 of us were wounded.
Well,
I said, good for you.
yep.
That was a feather in my cap.
Yes.
You know, to think that something I did worked out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, more than worked out.
Oh, more than worked out. Brought the Halifax home. He was stationed in
Because it
Blue.
wasn't just him that you
No,
helped,
no.
it was the other 6 crew members
The
too.
other 6, yes.
Yeah.
7 men,
Yeah.
all shot. Everybody was wounded. We used to bring the bombers back from France. We'd escort them back from Berlin.
Right.
We'd be coming back from our fighter sweep over France. One time, we caught up with this Lancaster, and he had 3 engines. One was smoking. So we brought him into the White Cliffs of Dover. They had paved the whole top. And we landed at the bottom end, he landed there on 3 engines. And you don't mind if I get emotional.
No, I'm getting emotional too.
And had 3 engines, so we taxied up beside him. We heard this swearing. And if you've ever listened to a Cockney swear, it's a work of art. It's a work of art. And we heard this row coming out of this airplane. We were running around. There's the rear gunner. He'd been over Berlin and been in a collision, and they had sheared off his guns, just like a knife through butter. And they twisted his seat forward, so he was jammed forward with his tail sitting in the slipstream. Well, we laughed. He wasn't humorous. He said, get me out of here. I've had enough. My backside's frozen. Well, that was the humorous part.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
these sort of things come up.
Yep, yep. Well, it's funny from where it depends on your vantage point.
Yes.
Yes.
Those
I-
backsides in the back, and he was just sitting on the bicycle seat. That's
Right.
all they were in the rear gunner bicycle seat, all the way from Berlin with his tail in the slipstream.
And the engine and the aircraft hurt,
The aircraft was wounded, yeah.
yeah. Because you were talking about the Anson, and I met a fellow once who had been an American who was up training in Calgary
Oh, yeah.
before the Americans got in. And he was telling me once about how when the Chinooks came in,
Oh.
he says they